from, and you can change around your viewports to serve your needs. You know, sometimes you may need a viewport set up like this. I don't know, but everyone has their preferences, and it's a good thing to know that that is there. Personally, I'm a big fan of the standard 4. I'm just going to use this as a moment to show you another thing. You'll notice that when I switched it to that 4-grid viewport layout, that I no longer have a perspective mode here. Well, again, that's where the reset button comes in. If I reset it, my perspective is back. Well, I'm going to show you a shortcut to the viewport options. If you actually click on a viewport and you go up in the left-hand corner here, you're going to see the words that actually explain what you're looking at: top, left, front, back, perspective, whatever it is. If you right-click on those, you'll actually have the same options you had inside the viewport configuration menu, except they're in a short menu right here. Now, these things are good, you know, when you're doing things that have a lot of faces, like for instance the sphere, and you want to see those things in a different way. So I can do the wireframe, I can switch it over to a smooth, I can do facets and highlights, which will keep highlighting the object as if it were under shadow, as it were ray traced, but you'll see just the facets with no smoothing. Flat would be with no lighting at all. And there's a bunch of others that you can screw around with, but you know, you can adjust the viewport clipping. So for instance, if I change this comes in handy with animation. If I were to zoom in on this object, you'll notice that it clips, and I can actually adjust the clip rate so that it doesn't clip. And with animating, that's usually a very handy thing, because you know, you'll oftentimes be doing an animation, and the object will like disappear when you're trying to do something, and it pisses you off. You're like, you know, God damn. But you'll notice as I slide the bar down, slowly things start clipping away until I can't see anything. And the higher it goes, the more render distance you're going to have. So you can see I can get closer now than I could before. But we're not going to go into that more detail now. So that's just a quick shortcut to adjusting your viewports. And of course you can do the classic things of make them smaller or larger and adjust them around. And I'm going to have a pretty interesting discussion with you guys about that in a minute here, because adjusting viewports can sometimes lead to very undesirable effects. So I'm just going to reset it one more time. Now I'm going to go and I'm going to create just a simple drawing in MS Paint so that I can show you guys something. Let's say I had a schematic. I'm just going to do something very simple. I don't even care what it looks like at this moment. Let's say this was the layout of a building. Hallelujah. Okay, if we save that on our desktop as a JPEG. Now let's say we wanted to use that as our source picture, because that's often what we want to do. If we go to Views, we can go to Viewport Background. Now this will set a background to whatever viewport you're in at the moment. I'm going to click on the top viewport here, and set the viewport background. Now there's a couple of crucial buttons that you want to click inside this rollout. The first is Display Background, so that it actually shows up. The second is Match Bitmap. I can't stress to you enough how important it is to match the bitmap, because if you don't match the bitmap will match the viewport. And what I'm trying to say with that is when you stretch the viewport, the image will stretch with it. And you also want to lock the zoom and pan. That way, if you have a very specific and I mean very specific, like blueprint of something, okay, the grid isn't going to change on you when you go to move it around. So if I come up here and I click the move tool now and I zoom in and out, you'll notice that the grid doesn't move from its position, and that it always stays in its same spot, and that the bitmap never gets any larger or smaller than it actually was. And I can stretch the viewport and it's not going to do anything. If I hadn't clicked those buttons, I could have a serious problem when I go to adjust viewports to get a better look at things. So I want to go over these tools down here, since these are something that you really have to get used to. This little hand here is self-explanatory, really. You go into a viewport, you click, and you can drag it around. You can go around an object that you have created, and you can just kind of get a different look at it. Now there's the zoom, which you can do a single viewport zoom, by left clicking and dragging your mouse in and out, or you can do all viewports at one time and you can go in and out like this. The simple shortcut to zooming in and out is to use the mouse wheel. The mouse wheel, however, is not as precise because it snaps. So if you want to get a very precise zoom in on something, the zoom tool is your key. Now this is the auto center tools. Now I can't remember which one of them is which. One of them centers you to the center of the viewport, and the other one centers you to the object you were looking at. So I'm going to make actually two objects here to test out which one is which, because I honestly can't remember. I'm going to raise this box up and move it to the left hand side. Now I have it on the gray box here. If you ever see like a little tiny black triangle in the bottom of the box where the tool is, that means it has a rollout, and you can actually you can select different types. The gray box seems to be center on the grid. The white box is center to object. That's what it was. So let's say I was looking at this object here, but it was kind of off in the distance, and I couldn't really get a good look at what I was looking at, and I wanted to quickly snap to it to get to see it. I change this to the white box, and I click on it, and it'll zoom me right onto the object. The next one is the same thing, except this time it's for all viewports. So let's say I had that same setup, right, and I wanted to see that box that was just hanging off in the distance that I couldn't really see, but I wanted to see it in all my viewports. I'd select the box, and I'd change this to the white, and it would zoom in on the box and center it in the front of all my viewports. The one after that is the field of view. Now the field of view can be a tool that you can use to brack. Anyways, the viewport tool is one that you can use to the field of view tool is one that you can use to create some interesting rendering effects. So you notice that I have this cylinder here. If I use the field of view, it zooms in on it, but it's different than, say, zooming in with that tool, with this tool here, because when you zoom in with this tool, the field of view doesn't change. Whereas if I zoom in with this view, with that tool, the field of view of the viewport has been changed, and you'll actually notice the cylinder looks different now. I'm going to reset real quick to continue. All right, the tool after that is the rotate tool. Now this rotates the viewport, not the object. I just want to make sure that's all said and done with. Brack, 1 second, guys. The tool I was talking about was the rotate tool, and this doesn't rotate the object, it rotates the viewport. So let's say you're looking at your object in 3ds Max and you want to go around it to see what you're doing. If I spin this around, if I click and drag my mouse, you'll notice that I spin around my object and I get a view at it from a different angle. I can look behind it, on top, below it, whatever I need to do. There's a couple of different ways to do this. There's tools that will actually, like the white box that auto centers the object into your screen, you can also apply the white circle here, which will do the same thing, where it'll rotate you around the object as opposed to around the center of the grid. And the last one you want to know is this, which maximizes the viewport so that you can see it. And I'll be back in 1 minute with more. Alright guys, I'm back. I'm just going to go over the top toolbar real quick, and I'm going to conclude this series, and I'll be back again with some other ones when I get some more free time. So from left to right, we're just going to start off. We got the undo button, the redo button. Simple enough. You do something you don't want, you hit the undo button, it'll fix it. If I make a box, don't want that box anymore, undo gets rid of it. The next ones after that are the link button and the unlink button. So let's say I wanted these two boxes to be linked together so that I could move them uniformly. I could click from one box to the other, and I could link them together. Now when I move one box, the other box will move with it. Since I linked the green box to the light green box, this green box is now a child of the light green box, which means anything I do to the light green box, the dark green box will follow along with it. And if I wanted to get rid of that link, I would select both boxes and hit the unlink button. And now you can see that the light green box and the dark green box are no longer connected.